Ooh, that looks tasty. Welcome folks to The Hungry Gamers, back with another mini preview. And today we're talking about Rise of the Wastelands. And this is a game that is a troops on a map style game and is already funded on either Kickstarter or GameFound, but they still have late pledges open for another couple of weeks, and they asked me if I would be interested in making a video, and so here we are. What this game is this is a post-apocalyptic game where you are basically trying to go out from your ruined city and control enough of the land where you're going to try to rebuild, but as you rebuild, you're going to be the dominant faction. And to do that, you're doing a basic action selection style game. And what I mean by that is you have a set number of action cubes each turn, and you're going to get to place them out onto your board, onto a move action, or an attack action, or an explore action, or a recycle action, or a buy action, etc. And what these are doing is you're either going to be turning your scouts into recycling areas, or basically resource gatherers, and then you'll take the recycle action to get bullets or energy or water, etc. Or you're going to be building troops and moving them around the board to fight things. In addition, there's going to be an explore action you're able to do, which is only while there are tiles unflipped over on the game, and you'll flip them over and you'll draw an event card, and you'll have a choice of something that you're going to do, something that's going to happen. And invariably, you're going to wind up having combat either with some kind of neutral force that's on a flipped over tile, or perhaps with other players. And when that happens, each unit, depending on your tech level that you've unlocked as you've gone, is going to have a certain number assigned to each combat value, either basic, medium, or superior. And you're going to get a power card. You'll flip those power cards over, and it'll tell you what the value of that combat is. But you're also going to have various technologies that are going to boost that, and your leaders have certain power cubes that they can use to boost that as well. But other than that, combat's very, very simple. The game is going to be won as you're playing through by putting your influence off of your board onto other players' boards. And so to do that, what's going to happen is either you have attacked their main city and defeated it. If you do that, you don't destroy their city, but you get to leave some of your influence behind. But mostly you're going to be chasing these objectives that are off to the side of the board, or in the case of the video that I have going up there, on top of the board. And if you have accomplished that goal, all other players are going to have one more round to do that as well. And if they accomplish it, great. They get to put an influence out on somebody else's player board, and that's going to affect your popularity a little bit, but mostly it's pushing the endgame. It's also worth noting that as you're getting closer to closing out the game, these objectives become harder to accomplish, and you have to do the bottom half of the cards to the top half of the cards. But really, that's it. You're kind of moving back and forth, using these actions, unlocking new abilities, building new units, and kind of moving around the board and battling each other, etc., etc., etc. Until eventually someone gets all of their influence out. So that's the broad overview of how this game works. So what do I like about this game? First of all, I have seen video that has miniatures, and the version that I have is meeples and things, and even just this meeple version, I think it looks great. I think they've done some very neat looking meeples. I like the way you are building things up, the way the little buildings slot in together, they slot into your city to the point where I actually prefer this to what I've seen of the miniatures version. I think it's really, really looks good. Double layer boards, all those things I think is a very good production, especially for a prototype, so it promises to, even in the retail version, be really, really good. I think also, I like that there's a lot of stuff to do, but you're always wishing you could do more every single turn. Even if you've unlocked all of the extra action cubes you can get, you're still constantly thinking, gosh, I wish I could do more each turn. And so I think that makes for very good decisions as you're going through. That even moves into, what are you going to upgrade first? Are you going to upgrade your extractors first? Or are you going to upgrade your combat first? Are you going to be able to get to where you can move faster first? There's all these choices you have to make, and I think it just works really, really well. I also think that is a very good ramp up to the game. Usually in the beginning there are several turns where people are exploring and they're getting some resources, and then suddenly, boom, then you're going at it, you're attacking each other, you're fighting, and it's a lovely kind of build up to get to that point. I also am going to say This game was far easier to play than I expected it to be. For games of this ilk, games that you are building up your tech and you're exploring and you're fighting and you're gathering resources, doing all these different things, usually it's a lot harder to learn to play. It took me half a read of the rule book almost before I'm like, okay, yeah, I get this, I know what I'm doing. So I really appreciate that. And I really like the event exploration cards because as you can see, at the top there, there's a, you can do this thing and it's just going to happen. But down at the bottom, it has a push your luck and roll the dice. Maybe get something better or maybe get nothing. And I really enjoy that. And with the exception of the cards that are something out there for you to fight, they're all going to be like that. So you can take the free thing or you can push it. And I always enjoy that. It makes for an interesting, hard choice every single time that you explore. And it also helps with the push to explore more because you're going to want to keep exploring because you're going to want to get these things. But also the way the power cards work. And I'm going to hold up just two of them right here. So as you can see, these cards have, down at the bottom it has your combat stuff, but all this other stuff here are interesting things that you're going to be able to do as you're playing through the game. And there's a whole bunch of them. My favorite is probably the ballistic missile, where you're able to just do a superior attack at something up to 5 range away. But what's very clever about it is as you're getting those, and every time you do a combat you get to draw a new one and then play whatever you want, is it suddenly makes a very hard choice of, do I want to play this card to do the thing or hold it for a better combat value later on? And I just find it very, very clever. It's very simple, it's very easy, but it makes the game super, super interesting when you go into combat because, again, you have to make a tough choice in the moment, which I really do enjoy. So what are my quibbles with the game? The first and the biggest one for me is I like those Explorer cards so much, there's just not enough of them. It makes sense. You go exploring, you flip over a tile, once that tile is explored, it's been explored. But I find those cards so interesting that I'm bummed every time I've played that after the tiles are out, that's it. There's no more of them. That really interesting part of the game has gone away. Next thing I'll say is, and I mentioned the game Scythe already. Like Scythe, this is the game that's a little bit not what you expect. You look at the stomping mechs, you look at these things, say, we're going to go and go combat, 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 but not really. Yes, you can get your influence out a little bit by attacking the opponent's base, but for the most part, you're going to get influence by racing for these different objectives. And I like that they cycle, and I find that interesting that you get one out there, you get one more turn that maybe you can do it too, and then it's gone, something new comes out. When that something new comes out, you might already have it, and then boom, you're done, you get to move on. And I find that pretty exciting, but on the other hand, it makes the game not about combat, which is what you probably expect the game to be based on what it looks like, but also it has that thing that I just said, I have no problem with flipping out a card and being like, oh, I have it. It's like if I play Ticket to Ride towards the end of the game, sometimes I'll just be like, you know what, give me more tickets. Maybe I already have one to get some free points. And this does have a little bit of that to it, then that might bother you. But my main point here is it's about these objectives. And sometimes the objectives are have 3 units out on the board on different tiles. Have all of your extractors upgraded, not called outposts, that's what they're called. Have all your outposts upgraded, or have all the buildings built into your city, and you're going to get a bonus. And on the one hand, you're doing those things anyway because you want to win. But on the other hand, sometimes people just don't get free points because they were already built a certain way. And so take that or leave it. I actually kind of enjoy it, but I know a lot of players are bothered by that kind of scoring system. Next thing I'll say is, while I like the faction leaders have different powers, I wish there were different powers for each of the colors as well, because the combat units look different, so I want them to act different. And also, the faction leaders' powers, there's an interesting push and pull there, or I guess pull and pull, I don't know, of when do you use those cues, because the abilities that the faction leaders have are very powerful, also kind of situational, but also that's kind of how you win combat. So in some ways you're actually pushed not to use your leader's abilities because you want to be able to win combat. And so while I don't have a problem with that, it does mean you're using your uniqueness less than you might otherwise, especially if all of the different factions, if they were slightly different somehow. If I have the little mechs that are like on like the little walkie legs, well, maybe they interact differently than the ones that are on the treads. Those kinds of things. But there you have it, folks. That is Rise of the Wastelands. I enjoyed this game. I find it very interesting. It's not what I expected, in the way that Scythe is not what most people expect. And so I think if you like that style of game where, yes, there's combat, yes, there's exploration, but really, it's a race to accomplish these objectives, then this is a game that you're probably going to enjoy. So there you have it, folks. As always, if you found this video useful, please like, subscribe, share, maybe become a channel member. As always, thank you so much for watching. Have a wonderful, wonderful day.